What's up, MeetEdgar community? Megan back with you today. I hope wherever you are in the world that you are having a productive and lovely day starting your business plans, because today I'm here to talk to you about how your content creation can really support making sure you're getting the most mileage out of your business. Now, when it comes to creating your content, I always like to remind people that you need to begin with the end in mind, meaning you need to create a clear vision and have a clear goal for how you want your content calendar to go. Our suggestion right now in your business is to double down on building your audience. Whatever is going on in the world, no matter what is going to happen during this crisis, during these uncertain times, building your audience is always going to serve. Even if you have to pivot your business in the future, if you have a strong audience who knows you, likes you, and trusts you, they will be willing to follow you when that pivot happens because you've proven your worth and you've proven to them that they want to be in your business community. Sorry, my dog is right here and he's a little bit annoying me. If you see him pop on in there, that's what's going on. So really, when you're growing your audience, you want to make sure that you meet people where they are. Think and write down why the world needs your business right now and make a video about that. Why am I telling you to make a video? Because I want to make sure that you guys are capitalizing on growing a strong audience who knows your face. And in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to upcycle that video into multiple pieces of content to utilize on social media. Because when it comes down to it, you really want to make sure you're amplifying your message and making sure it's getting out to people where they want to consume that content. And when you're getting creative with your video topics and how you're going to film them, remember, really compelling content comes from having time and space to plan this out. So we're going to go over some planning techniques on how you're going to actually audit your content in MeetEdgar in order to find that really strong content you should be upcycling, the questions you should be asking yourself during an audit, and some techniques you can take and use, like using things like Asana in order to create some systems that will allow you to upcycle each and every piece of content. Because when it comes down to it, what really is business? It's just a bunch of fundamental systems that you are putting out there. So when we are getting started here, there's this idea of upcycling. That's taking one piece of social media content and turning it into 10 status updates. That's typically how we like to describe it. But our friend Neil Patel, who runs the Growth Everywhere podcast and who is a really strong marketer, explains it in a way that I also want to make apparent to you, just in case this resonates with you a little bit better. His way of explaining upcycling content is the seed, sprout, pollinate technique. So first and foremost, what this means is you are going to find your seed content. So what is seed content? That's the stuff that's the best of the best, that has already proven its worth on social media. Your audience is really loving it. It's the best piece of content around to make sure that your brand is growing your audience and reaching more people. This seed content can easily be found within your MeetEdgar account. If you actually go to your history tab in your MeetEdgar account, there is going to be a button that is in one of the columns that says all-time clicks. That all-time clicks button will actually sort your posts that MeetEdgar has sent out by the posts that have done the best down to the worst. And that way you're able to see the topics that people are really gravitating towards and making sure that you're taking this as clues to what they want to see more from you. So the posts that have received the most engagement, the most clicks, that's going to be your seed content. Now, when it comes down to scrolling through this and really looking at what content's doing the best, right now is a great time to take an audit of what's in your history tab in MeetEdgar. Ask yourself some questions such as, why did I create this content? Remember, the more why you can have behind every piece of content that's going out, the stronger story you're telling, the stronger brand awareness you're telling, and ultimately the objective of that post will be more clear to your audience. So ask yourself if there's a clear call to action and if it builds that know, like, and trust factor that your brand so desperately needs in order to grow a strong tribe. Ask yourself, what pain point does this bring to light for my audience that they might have in their life that my product or service is serving for them? Is your ideal customer resonating with the message that you're putting out there? Can you put more personality into some of these posts that you're putting out there? Can you take that post and upcycle it by adding more variations into it, or by adding, like I said, some video content into the strategy about some well-researched topics that you're locating in your seed content while you're doing this audit? Ask yourself, if someone saw that post a year ago and they did not take action on it, how can you improve that post in order to compel them to take the next step? Oftentimes, video is a great way to do this. You can also ask yourself, is it clear to me what the next step should be after I read this post? Because remember, it's humans on the other side of the screen that are consuming the content you're writing. So start with that beginner's mindset, clear slate, and if you are reading that piece of content, what's the action step that you want someone to take? It could be as simple as them hearting your content to show that they really resonate with a funny meme, or them actually sharing the content because they want to make sure your message is getting out to a bigger audience on their own Facebook pages. So just remember, branding is really a story. So how can you tell this story better to grow your audience and to grow your brand's reach, especially through video right now? If you are locating your seed content, remember within your MeetEdgar account, the history tab is going to sort your posts to show you the content that should be considered your seed content, the ones that have received the most click-through rates. Once you do this, start asking yourself how you can turn that content into a video. It does not have to be live, although I do recommend it because you get a lot of love from the algorithms that way. But how could you whip out your camera and perhaps go ahead and make a 2-minute video describing some of the main points within that post? These things are really great in order to, again, capitalize on the top performing posts that you've already taken the time to write. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't think you have to do something new every single time, because what's working should be amplified out even more. We really want to give people a reason to engage with our content. And this is where the sprout part of the seed, sprout, pollinate, upcycle comes in. Once you locate your seed content and you've asked yourself some questions about what you can do better with that seed content, so those were the questions we just went over of having that lens there, you're going to start sprouting that content. So say you've posted something out on Twitter, you've posted a blog post out there, but no one actually got to see it because they weren't online at that time. If you're able to sprout that content into some text-only posts, or into a video describing some things that you've researched within that blog post, it gives people more of an opportunity to consume your content. And in 2020, if you are not sprouting your content and making it into a lot of different forms, you're missing a huge opportunity to not only save yourself some time, but to reach more people with your message. And having that message out there is why you created your business anyway, right? So use this as motivation to start sprouting that content that you're locating in your history tab now. All other platforms that are out there have their own native language. So locate the platform that you know your audience loves to consume on most. Does your audience hang out on Instagram and love your well-curated photos? What can you do with those photos to at least have a presence on Twitter? Even if that's not your main network, you can sprout your content onto Twitter by just going ahead and adding those graphics with a couple of lines to your Twitter account, making sure it gets out to other networks, growing your audience more. Once it comes time to actually sprout your content, I want to show you a technique that we actually take here at MeetEdgar, and that's to have systems in place. Because if we're more systemized about it, it's likely we're going to actually follow through. So let me share my screen here real quick. This is actually an Asana task that we have created in order to sprout our content. So what we're going to do is, if I'm doing a webinar on finding the best times to post on social media, this is going to be an hour-long webinar. I don't want to just give that webinar one time. I want to go ahead and in Asana, so this is Asana that I can create, but you can do this on just a checklist or whatever works best for you. I'm going to go ahead and put my tasks to make this webinar, and then my subtasks are going to be how I'm going to sprout this content. So you can see my subtasks here for myself to create. Add a Facebook Live with 3 main points. So this Facebook Live is just going to tease out 3 of the main points that perhaps I saw a lot of engagement in the chat with the webinar on. Remember, locating the content that's giving the most engagement within the webinar and using that as clues that this would be good social media content. So I'll make a 3-minute video to go out on Facebook about that. I'm then going to cut up the webinar into some 15-minute clips of maybe a slide that did really well, and maybe go ahead and post those on my Instagram story. So I'll make myself a goal to get 5 15-second clips from within that webinar, go into my iMovie software or whatever you have on your computer, and it's super simple to just split the clip and have that 5-minute clip there. If you've never used iMovie, I promise all you have to do is drop the file in there, right click on the place you want to cut it, and there'll be an option that says split clip. It'll split it for you, do it on the other end, and you can get a quick 15-second burst there. Super simple to do in a way that you can upcycle a long webinar into these ways you can share it on Instagram and get your value out there more. Download the full webinar and upload it to YouTube. YouTube is a search engine when it comes down to it. We have to remember that a lot of these platforms like Instagram and Facebook aren't necessarily great for people new finding us to grow our audience. What is great for new people finding us is things like Pinterest and YouTube, because they're actually used and cataloged like search engines. So people go to YouTube and search for how to. So I want to make sure that this webinar, perhaps I did it in a closed gated place like we do here at MeetEdgar in our webinar software. But once it's done, and once we've given that value to our followers on the live webinar, why not recycle it up on our YouTube channel so it can live there in an evergreen fashion for more people to search and, again, to grow our audience more. Maybe I can get 5 pull quotes and put them on a graphic in Canva. So again, what were those aha moments that you noticed people in the chat with your webinar were really relating to? What did they get with those aha moments? You can go ahead and put those on a graphic in Canva to be able to share out onto Twitter. I just realized that was kind of small for you guys. Hopefully you can see these subtasks a little better here now. Add the full webinar to Instagram TV. If you go onto IGTV and you upload your video there, you can actually share it onto your IG feed with little clips of it. Again, making sure you're showing up in multiple places. Can you get this transcribed? Transcription services are actually super cheap. So we get all of our webinars transcribed and turned into blog posts. Again, perhaps someone doesn't love watching video, but they would read the blog post there. The bonus points of this, if you do turn it into a blog post, is you get those keywords cataloged in search engines like Google that'll pick up on them and drive more traffic to your site. So this is, again, our Asana task for a webinar we're doing and how we're going to break it up to actually get social media posts out of it. But you could do this with a blog post. You could do this with a podcast. Whatever it is, make sure you have these systems set up. You can go ahead and duplicate this task and just go ahead and pop in every new title. When I'm done with something, I'll just check it off and it'll be shown as gone, that I've done that section, and I can go down the rest. So have these systems set in place. If you don't want to use a software like Asana to do this, you can absolutely just create like your own little PDF here. So this is another, we ran a video challenge and we went ahead and gave this worksheet out, where you can just take your seed content, go ahead and make your video tasks in a little checkbox here and check them off every single time. Remember, there's great opportunities if you set these systems up in order to make sure that you're doing this in a really streamlined way, not only saving yourself time, but also getting the most out of every single content item that you are posting. So make yourself a goal, especially if you're creating video content right now, because that's going to be really appreciated by your followers to get that know, like, and trust factor by seeing your face. Make yourself a goal to have a system, whether it's in Asana or whether it's actually just on a pen and paper, old school style. It's really going to help you stick to these things. So essentially, we've gone through the seed of recognizing and pulling out our best content, asking some questions about how it can be improved before we sprout it. Go ahead and sprout that content out into different mediums on different networks. And the last step of Neil Patel's Seed Sprout Pollinate in order to upcycle your content is going to be capitalizing on it by doing a little more push of saying to people, you know, hey, if you comment on this and let me know some of your questions, I will go ahead and hop on a 30-minute complimentary call with you. So pollinating means how can you get more touch points with your audience out of this one piece of content? So how can you cross-promote to help get people on a newsletter or help people get on a phone call with you so you can actually start to have these one-on-one relationships with your followers? Because it really comes down to the fact that it's human-to-human interaction that we're going to want to get the most out of these pieces of content. So the pollinate part is getting more touch points. Remember, it takes about 7 touch points for someone to actually become loyal to a brand, and making sure you're sprouting your content can get more touch points with people to build that trust factor. Essentially, you want to give people a reason to engage with your content in any form that they want to, whether it's written, video, podcast, whatever it is. Make sure each thing that you're researching in that seed content is sprouted and pollinated so that you are getting that reach that you deserve with your content out there. Awesome having you on the live today. Let us know what you're taking away from this, what you're actually going to go put into practice. If you have a good system for actually seed sprouting, pollinating your own content, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to get ideas from you guys too. And I will be back tomorrow chatting a little bit more on business strategies for this time. And let me know if you have questions by emailing support@meetedgar.com. Also, we are always here to chat, and we love seeing you in the inbox. I'll be in there all afternoon, so I hope I hear from you guys. Have a really great rest of your Thursday.